Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Plant Pathology Universe. So, as you all know, I have been posting videos after a long time because I was busy with my work schedules earlier. But now I'll be posting the videos regularly. So, from today onwards, we are going to start a new series that is dedicated to ARS 2026 exam, particularly in the field of plant pathology. And I'll be covering all the topics that falls under the particular syllabus for ARS 2026, so as you will all get it in a very easier manner, and I'll be able to make you all understand these topics. Also, I'll be posting two videos in a week. That's what I have decided in addition to my work schedules. And also I'll be clearing your doubts regarding the same. So if you have any doubt, any queries, you can either DM me, comment me. So guys, stay tuned and keep supporting this if you find these videos helpful. So let's start today with our first topic, and that is about landmarks in plant pathology. Now these landmarks in plant pathology are basically what we are going to discuss in this particular topic, is about the 3 or 4 historic events that led to the evolution of plant pathology as a subject. Okay, so I think we should start. So let's start with our first, you can say, the landmark. And the first landmark is St. Anthony's fire, right? So if you see about St. Anthony's fire, its historical name was, you can say, ergotism, right? Right, it is known as ergotism. It is known as ergotism because it basically, the disease, it is caused by a eating rye which is contaminated with your ergots. Now ergots are nothing but these are a kind of a, you can say, fungus mycelium which is hardened, and that is produced by a fungus which is known as Claviceps purpurea. Now this Claviceps purpurea fungus, it is known as, you can say, ergot fungus. So the rye which is contaminated with these ergots, when the people, they have this rye which is contaminated with your ergots, they got this disease which is known as ergotism. Now this ergotism disease is also known as St. Anthony's fire, right? It is known as St. Anthony's fire because people at that time, they believe that the diseases, they are basically because of their spontaneous generation or because of the wrath of God. So that's why they have kind of worshipped the god Saint Anthony. That's why they have referred it to as Saint Anthony's fire, right? So the basic, or you can say, the most common symptoms of this disease at that time were burning pain, convulsions, hallucinations, and gangrene. So basically the people used to get that fiery symptoms in them. That's why it is known as St. Anthony's fire, right? So here you can see these are the different symptoms that are being shown here, particularly like seizures are there, muscle spasms are there, hallucinations are there, then gangrene is there, right? So these different symptoms are there, right? Then here you can see these are the typical, you can say, the symptoms which are shown here. The typical symptoms basically include these kind of, you can say, uh, burning, hallucination, limbs, etc. Okay, and the major factor which was involved in causing this disease was the production of LSD. LSD now is a kind of a chemical, you can say, that creates hallucination in persons. Okay, so this is about, we can say it in a very summarized form, that it is because of the ergot which is contaminated dry. Particularly it affect the people of Europe, and these were the symptoms of this particular disease, as you can see in the picture, right? Now here also in these pictures, the symptoms, they are clearly visible, right? So these symptoms are there that has caused these kind of issues in those people at that time, right? So because of this particular, right, so this is the first landmark from where this people got to know about the plant diseases, or because of the there are certain, you can say, the organisms in plants that can cause the diseases in humans. So it is basically a starting point for that. Now the most important disease that has basically evolutionized, or you can say started the field of plant pathology, and that disease was late blight of potato. And that late blight of potato generally occurred in the 1845 period, and that the impact of that disease was so much that even a new continent, or you can say a new USA was developed, because the Irish people, they migrated from Ireland to USA, because Ireland, or the Irish people which were living in Ireland, they got infected or they got affected because of this particular disease. ठीक है, so here it is written that Ireland at that time was a part of United States, and because of the different challenges, economic equality, etc., they're completely dependent on the growing potato as a crop for their food purpose, right? And now since they are solely responsible on potato, so in 1845 to 86, when the disease of late blight occurred, it has devastated their crop completely, as you can see here, right? So this is about the cause of the famine. That is, the name of the disease was late blight of potato, and it is caused by a fungus which is known as, Phytophthora infestans. Now Phytophthora infestans, the name itself arises, which means, phyto means plant, Phthora means destructor, and infestans means infectious, means a infectious plant destructor. Later it was identified that it was because of a fungus. Earlier the people used to think again that it is because of spontaneous generation, but these were the symptoms of this particular disease, and this particular famine, it caused havoc in Ireland, right? Here you can see the symptoms. Now there are three factors basically because of which this disease becomes so much havocing. The first factor was over dependence on potato. As I already told you, the Irish people, they are completely dependent on the potato as their food crop. That is why, since they do not have any other kind of, right, so since they do not have any other kind of crop, they're completely dependent on potato, and when this disease has devastated the entire potato, they are left with no food. Second was monoculture. Monoculture means culturing a similar variety year after year. Now since they're dependent on potato, again in potato they're dependent on single variety, and because of which that become highly susceptible to the disease. Then the third one was blight arrival. So as I already told you, the year was 1845 to 1846. It is the year which has caused the havoc in Ireland, and that led to the evolution, or you can say the havoc of this particular disease known as late blight of potato, right? Now what basically this scientist does is, now everybody at that time was not sure how this disease has occurred, what kind of organism it is associated it with. So it is this scientist who is known as Anton de Berry, and the full name of Anton de Berry is Henrik Hermann Anton de Berry. He is basically from Germany. He is a botanist and mycologist, and he experimentally proved that the late blight of potato was caused by a fungus, and the name of the fungus was Phytophthora infestans. That's why he is regarded as the father of plant pathology. He was the important person who has revolutionized the field of plant pathology and started this field, and everybody got aware about this particular plant pathology as a subject. Earlier the name of Phytophthora infestans was different, because it was not experimentally proved that it is caused by a fungus, but it was Anton de Berry who in 1861 scientifically proved that it is caused by a fungus, and the name of the fungus was Phytophthora infestans. That is why he is regarded as the father of plant pathology. Okay, so he's the very important scientist, and that you have to remember. There are certain other, you can say, students of Henrik Anton de Berry which will later become pioneer in the different fields of plant pathology that we are going to study in some other lecture, but this is about his contribution and why he is regarded as the father of plant pathology, because he proved that the late blight of potato, which was the havoc, or you can say the most important famine in that particular time, he proved scientifically that it is caused by a causal organism, not by the spontaneous theory but by the germ theory, and that too by a fungus. Then the third landmark that we are going to discuss is the coffee leaf rust. Now coffee leaf rust, it also revolutionized the coffee industry, particularly in Sri Lanka. This disease, it has got a impact on Sri Lanka, which was at that time known as Ceylon. Okay, and the fungus which is causing this particular disease is Hemilia vestratrix, right? So what has impacted the coffee tree at that time? It has resulted in a shift in cultivation of coffee to tea. The Sri Lankan people, they used to have coffee plantations, but because of this particular disease, they in 1860s or in late 1860s, they had the coffee plantation, it got destroyed, and because of which they have to shift from coffee to tea, right? So that is the amount of havoc this disease has created, right? And these, you can see the symptoms, where you can see these are the berries which are infected, the leaves, they are having these yellowish kind of spots which were available on them, or you can say the rusty pustules which were available on the leaves, and that has led to the production of your uridospores, that has caused the you can say the repeating spores, and they have traveled from the distances, right? Then next, you can see these are the different symptoms: the orange pustules, the kidney shaped Hemilia vestratrix spores, and how it has impacted the coffee plantation in Sri Lanka. And this is how we are going to summarize it, where it is having a yield loss of around more than 75%, where coffee it get abandoned, yellow chlorotic spots were visible, orange red rusty pustules were there, and in late 1860s it has caused the identification, a formal identification that was given by a scientist who is known as H.M. Ward, that we are going to discuss in the next slide, that we got in 1869. Okay, so the name of the scientist who has recognized this disease or studied this disease was H.M. Ward. He is also a student of your Anton D. Berry, and he is also regarded as the father of tropical plant pathology, because he studied this coffee rust and studied the role or the critical role of this in understanding the biology and epidemiology of your coffee rust, which is caused by the fungal pathogen known as Hemilia vestra ticks. With the major, you can see the findings of H.M. Ward were that the disease, they results from an interaction between your three components, that is the host, pathogen, and environment, which we refer to as your disease triangle. Now what happens basically in disease triangle, we are having the three sides, that is host, pathogen, and environment, right? The next we have is not next point is that they are not merely the presence of a pathogen, that is not, it's not only because of the pathogen, but it is because of the presence of these three factors any disease will occur. And the impact of disease will also get affected by the fact that how pathogens will affect the plant physiology. He also studied the enzymatic degradation of host tissues and the nutrient relationships between the host and the parasite. So here you can see the H.M. Ward, who has basically studied the coffee rust, which has caused the devastation of coffee plantations in Sri Lanka during the late 1860s. Okay, now the third disease or the third landmark that we are going to discuss is the downy mildew of grapes, right? So this downy mildew of grapes, it is caused by the another fungus, which is now not regarded as a true fungus or a fungal like organism, known as Plasmopara viticola, which has caused the downy mildew of grapes. And this disease, it is native to North America. Now what the history of this disease is very interesting, because this disease generally has traveled from one country to another with the right. Basically what happened at that time was that the cuttings were required for planting the grapevines. So this disease, it has introduced accidentally from Europe to France in around 1878 in those cuttings, because those cuttings were resistant to phylloxera, which is a kind of a root aphid in grapes. So they want to have the root cuttings which are resistant to phylloxera, so they have introduced the root cuttings from you can say Europe to France. But the cuttings which they have imported, they are infected with the spores of this particular fungus known as the downy mildew of grapes, and because of which it has caused the severe epidemic in France, that too in around 1878, because of those infected cuttings, right? Right, now here you can see the typical symptoms of your downy mildew of grapes, where the berries are infected, the leaves are infected, right? So in an effort, that is what it is written over here, that is to prevent the root aphid, they have introduced the cuttings, but those cuttings, they were infected with the downy mildew spores, and like that accidentally the spores has been introduced. But because of this particular disease, that is the downy mildew, it is a major landmark, because this has started the field of disease management management using the certain chemicals in plant pathology, and that is because of the discovery of a compound which is known as the Bordeaux mixture, that has been discovered by a scientist who is known as the PMA Millardet, who is from France, and he was a professor at the Bordeaux University, and he has prepared a mixture of three compounds that can be used to manage this particular fungal disease. And this particular you can say chemical compound is still now in use because it is having the both bactericidal as well as the fungicidal properties, right? So this is the person who is known as the PMA Millardet. That was the Pierre Marie Alexis Millardet, who was a French botanist and a plant pathologist. He developed the Bordeaux mixture in the 1885. Now the question arises, what is basically a Bordeaux mixture? So Bordeaux mixture is nothing but it is a composition of three compounds, that is your copper sulfate, lime and water, and it was a first chemical fungicide that was widely used in agriculture and has now till now it has been in practice. Okay, so the original composition of Bordeaux mixture that was given by Millardet at that time was 5:5:10. That means the 5 pounds of your copper sulfate and lime and your 10 gallons of 5:5:50, sorry, not 5:5:10, but it is 5:5:50. That is the 5 pounds of your compounds, that is copper sulfate and lime, and 50 gallons of your water. Now it has been used in different composition as per your choice. If you want to make a paste or if you want to make a concentrate, on that basis you can use it, right? So this basically marks the success, or you can say the marks the birth of a modern chemical plant disease management strategy, right? So here you can see, and there is a very interesting story how he has discovered basically the Bordeaux mixture was that he was roaming into a vineyard field and he has observed that some person has sprayed the copper, you can say the copper sulfate and lime into his vineyards in order to prevent any kind of you can say forgery, or you can any kind of pilferage of his berries, right? So to prevent that, he has sprayed the copper sulfate and lime. And what Millardet observed was that the vines, the outer vines which are having those compounds, they are free from the disease. However, the inner vines which are not having that compound, they are infected with this particular downy mildew disease. So this observation triggered his mind, and that's how he has prepared this particular compound by doing the composition into different proportions, and that is why he has finalized later this particular composition of 5:5:50 that has proved to be a very effective you can say bactericidal as well as fungicidal, and it was the first proven fungicide that has started the chemical disease management and thereby saved the European grape industry. Okay, so this is all about the different landmarks, the 4 landmarks that we have studied that has led to the evolution of plant pathology. First was St. Anthony's fire. Second one was your late blight of potato, the golden landmark in plant pathology. Third was your coffee leaf rust, and the fourth was your downy mildew of grapes. Okay, so I hope everybody has got the understanding of these 4 landmarks. We have various historical other landmarks as well, but these 4 are the most important. So thank you very much all for listening to this video, and I hope this video is helpful for you. So keep supporting these videos so that I can bring new topics for you understanding, and you can also give your feedbacks and your comments, which thing I have to improve or anything you want to study in particular any kind of questionnaire. If you want, I'll be there to help you out. So thank you all for watching. Please do like, subscribe and share and support me in this particular thing. So I'll be very grateful to all of you for listening to this. So thank you very much guys, and keep supporting and sharing. Thank you.